of business development of women of the flooring business. And today, I'm so excited that we have somebody who is very special because in our industry, it's really about the flooring installer. And so we've got an expert here. We have John Jarvis, who is technical services manager for Karndean Designflooring. So, John, how are you?
I'm doing well, Liz. Thank you.
Good. So, John, just give us quickly how long you've been with Karndean and your background before that.
Okay, so I've been in the flooring business quite a while, about 32 years since I've been out of high school. I actually started, I know we don't count those years prior to out of high school, but I started as a teenager as a helper for an installer, working all my summers and weekends. So was able to get immersed in the business quick. Got out of high school and I was literally subcontracting projects when I was still a senior in high school. So very early on. And from there, I moved into not only residential installations of most flooring products. I did some warehouse work for an outfit, worked my way into the retail showroom floor, and I found that I always got pulled back to the installation side, which was the true passion. So I had to stay there. So over the years, I worked my way into being a commercial flooring contractor, and I ran a large workroom here in Pittsburgh for about 10 years, and I was the owner of that company, and I found a position open with Karndean. So I've been, since then, I've been with Karndean for about 10 years. Actually, this is my 10-year anniversary this year, and I started as a technical representative, and now I'm managing the department.
Wow, terrific that you knew so early what you wanted to do and that you liked it. Just give us a little bit, what makes Karndean different, John?
So obviously right now on the showroom floor, the retail showroom floor, commercial spaces, LVT, there's not a lot of space for LVT because there's so many people making it. And Karndean's been in business since 1973. This is our 50th anniversary of providing everyone with a quality product. One of the biggest things with Karndean, it's in our name, design flooring. We have multiple formats. So we have glue down, we have rigid core, we also have a loose lay product. But the design part is what really sets us apart, and the ability to have those different formats. So if you need a rigid core floating product for an application, we have that. But if you're moving into something where you require some design or would like some design, or maybe something that needs a glue down product for a durability standpoint for the correct application, we have all of that covered. So we're not just a click product like a lot of manufacturers that are out there now.
You and I talked a little bit before, and one of the things that I thought was so valuable was, how can a retailer do the job right? I was in the flooring business, and it seemed like, I tried to make it as seamless as possible for the installer. So, and what is it that retailers need to do to make sure this works?
Sure. So, there are a lot of retailers that put faith in their installers, which is great, and they absolutely should. But are they also putting an investment in that installer? Does the installer have the appropriate training, right? Are they following the installation guidelines? Are they reading those instructions that come in every box of product? And right, so are they following the guidelines on the adhesive buckets? Are they following industry standards? Because one of the things I think that we miss, where we miss the mark as an industry, as there are industry standards, right? There's
Yes.
Groups like the ASTM, there's groups like RFCI who are folks from all the big manufacturers and suppliers of adhesives and underlayments and things, and everyone comes together to write those instructions. And more often than not, the installers aren't even aware that those bodies exist, let alone follow those instructions. And so when we're sending an installer out on the project, do we make sure, as the retailer, as the installation manager, whatever our position is, are we making sure that they have the instructions that they need and the materials that they need, and have we prepared them properly for the job?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, we talked about, you can't assume that the installer who goes out on a job just because it's luxury vinyl floor, that every floor is alike, correct?
Absolutely, and there are little caveats to each and every product, right? And there are a lot of similar products that have similar installation methods, but you also have things like moisture tolerances and floor flatness and things, and a lot of those fall into the industry standards. But the manufacturer at hand or the product that they have in their hand that day, those instructions would supersede um, the industry standards. They may be a little tighter standard or something along those lines. And so again, following the instructions is a really easy way to win the game every time. I always joke at installation trainings. I still do hands-on installation trainings with my position here at Karndean, and I always say, you can't get in trouble for not following the rules if you followed the rules. So if you do things correctly and you read the instructions, you won't have a problem. And it's very simple, very simple philosophy there, right?
Yeah, the other thing I think about is moisture. I used to do inspections, and
Sure.
I found that more times than none, first of all, I never knew a retailer that owned a moisture meter.
Right.
And then there were installers that didn't have. So let's talk about that a little bit, about that
Sure.
issue.
Sure. Liz, that's a great topic because moisture is one of the biggest failures in the industry we have. We have high moisture in slabs, and especially in areas, right? There are certain areas of the country where it's more prominent. Go to South Florida, right? You've got high water tables, you've got high humidity, and moisture can happen. And I would agree. Typically, commercial contractors are the ones doing the moisture testing. We see that happen. Retailers, in general, a lot of them don't have that. And I won't say, we wouldn't categorize everywhere. There are a lot of folks out there that do things correctly. And if we had to put a wager on it, I'd say the folks that have the moisture meters and that are doing the moisture testing and that are following those rules are the ones that are having the least amount of problems, right? So unfortunately, it's the afterthought. We see a failure out there in the industry, and regardless, and we'll get calls. We even get calls from folks who are looking at projects that aren't Karndean products, and they'll say, "Hey, can you just throw an eye on this and just take a look and give me an opinion?" Well, sure, we can take a guess at that point. It's not a true investigation, but you can take a look at some pictures, look at some numbers, and the first thing you ask is, "Well, did you test for moisture when you put this down?" "Well, no, we didn't." "Well, then how do we know that it was within tolerance of the product that you were putting down?" "Well, we didn't." "So how do we know that this isn't," right, at that point, call it installation or environmentally related, it's site related to that project, may not be a specific problem to that flooring, but had we just done our due diligence, tested for moisture, and then treated the slab correctly. So in a situation where there's high moisture, obviously there are moisture mitigation systems out there to tackle whatever problem you might have.
So you get calls, right?
Sure.
And so I'm just wondering, and probably get calls about other products, right? You don't always just
Sure.
get Karndean. You probably get other people, other manufacturers too. People want to know, right?
Absolutely. Especially with retailers and contractors that we've worked with, or myself or some of our other tech reps have done installation trainings with. They'll call us because we're a trusted source at that point. They say, "It looks like everything you told me was right, and it turns out that everything that you told us we need to do, we did need to do that. And whenever we follow those rules, we don't have any issues." So they'll call and pick our brain because we don't have a vested interest in maybe that product because it's not Karndean's, right? So, but even in an event where it is ours, it's unfortunate where some folks go. So it's like, to the flip side of that, we'll get a call from an installer on a job site, and he'll say, "Hey, John, I'm on the job, and I have your adhesive here. I need to know what trowel to use." And I said, "Well, it's actually on that bucket. And where did you get my number from? Because if you called the tech line off the bucket, if you would have just moved over a couple lines, you would have saw the trowel notches for what you need." And that's an example of somebody not being prepared, right? We're already on the job site. So now it's too late. If we don't have everything we need, it's too late. We missed it, right? So,
Right. So for those of you that just joined us, including my cat over here, who figured out how to open the door, I'm speaking with John Jarvis, who is Technical Services Manager for Karndean Designflooring. And we're talking about floors, we're talking about failures, we're talking about the kinds of things that you as a retailer or you as an installer really need to take a look at. And I put in the chat box, I put John's direct phone. He actually will give you his cell phone. So that's 312-709-4662, right?
You know what, Liz? I'm going to correct you. I'm going to set it on there. It's 412 area code. I
Oh my
apologize.
goodness. Okay, it's 412. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So you can always call John and ask him. Now, you said do you do some installation training? How does that work, John?
We do. Typically, Liz, like in a retail situation, right? So it would be a little different with a retailer versus a flooring contractor. We kind of tweak those trainings to fit the need of the customer. So if you're talking about a retail store, someone maybe that's currently selling Karndean, if you're a Karndean dealer, then we would possibly do it as display floor, where we would install a floor in your showroom on the display floor with your installers. When we do those, we typically want to have the installers there prepared to install an LVT floor, not there to watch myself or one of my other tech reps do the installation, because that doesn't help you, right? The help is the hands-on, and let's work with the product. Let's make a mistake. Let's ask a question. Let's understand what we're working with. And when we leave, your showroom floor is a representation of what your installers can offer. And so, throughout the years of doing those trainings, there were a lot of retailers out there that said, well, we just want you to come in and do it. Well, then how does that reflect what you offer your customers?
Right.
It doesn't. You're showing what we offer your customers, but not what your installers can do. So let's do it with your guys and make sure they have the skill set to do it. Most of the time, and I'll say the majority, 99% of the retailers out there, you have those guys, you have the skill set, you have the talent to do the design flooring, the decorative borders and picture frames with keyline borders and things like that. They just might not have the mindset or the training to do it, but they have the skill set to do it, or they wouldn't be working for you. So that's one of the places where we set ourselves apart with the design flooring. Again, we have the commodity items, the rigid cores, we have those products for that. But if you really want to separate yourself, be different in the market, in a sea of rigid products, then add that design, add that decorative border around the kitchen that you can't do with a rigid core product. You're going to do that with a glue down products that can be cut, fit, scribe fit. You can cut radiuses, curves. You can add any type of design just with product right off the shelf.
Now, John, when should they do that? So, when do I go ahead and I, change the customer up a little bit? How do I add that flare part? Do when I go out and I measure, or does that when I go ahead and say, maybe we could add a little bit to that? What do you think about that?
So yeah, I think some of that's going to be dependent on the customer and on the entire experience, right? So is the customer called you for a color and you're coming out to measure, or are they coming into the showroom to look at some products and get some ideas? We have what we call our design tables, and even on our display boards, we show some things. We show some corners that'll show a picture frame with maybe the field product on a 45 and things like that. So doing that at the time where they're shopping at the store is great, because you can show them and get them an idea, right? Get the mind working, getting them thinking about those options. Because once you have them locked in on the upsell, right, on that decorative border, on that thing that sets them apart, it's hard to backpedal the other way. But if we push them into the cheapest click together product in the showroom, it's hard to go back the other way, right? We can always downsell them, right? We can always VE everything. We can always value engineer it at the end if we need to. But it's always best to show them that right out of the gate. Show them some options, right? And the home is going to reflect a lot of that, right? So depending on their design, their taste, the things that they like, I mean, that helps you with those items. I'm a car guy, so I always like to say, hey, not everybody drives the budget car, right? There are folks out there that drive the high-end cars. I won't even throw the brands out there. We all know what I mean. So not everybody wants that straight lay floor that can get installed north, south, or east, west. They might want that picture frame and that 45 and something to set their house apart, show their character, show their design. Right?
Well, once you set yourself apart, the other part of that is then you get better referrals. Because if I choose something that's really, really fancy, right, I'm going to tell my friends that look, this is where I got this. Because people, I come into your house. It's so funny. A woman across the street did her kitchen, and she was really excited. She was going to do a really fancy kitchen, and then a kitchen floor. Then she decided no, to go just be plain. And I think she was really upset because people didn't say anything. You went and looked at it and you went, why would anybody even bother with a floor,
Sure.
with a floor like this? I mean, it's not that she doesn't have money. And I'm thinking, why would she just go with something? So, and then everybody asked where she got it. And then they started talking about, I wonder if that's all they do in that store. They only have those kind of plain stuff. So if you want to set yourself apart, you have to do it so that your customer can brag about it, right?
Absolutely. And that's kind of piggies back into the showroom. So I had said about putting down some showroom floor. If you put down some display floor in your showroom that shows your capability, right? And maybe a little too far. Maybe it shows more than what most people would like. When they walk into your showroom, or they walk into your kitchen for that matter, and they say, wow, this is amazing. Even if they are only shopping for that basic straight lay floor, they are comfortable and confident with your ability, because if you can do that high-end design floor, then you can definitely do my straight lay oak floor.
I think that's a really good statement, that your showroom should reflect what you're capable of, because you said you want the customer to aspire to something different. And if you don't show it, how do they have any idea that you can do it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Right?
And
so let's talk about installers for a second. Everybody has an installation problem. We don't have enough installers. And I think about people taking on apprentices. Could talk a little bit about that. What are your thoughts about how you might increase your installers?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. And that's a hot topic in the industry right now. Most of the skilled guys, the true flooring mechanics, right? And when I say mechanics, everyone thinks about working on a car. But when I started in the industry, a flooring mechanic was the guy you went to. That was the guy that knew how to get out of any situation, right? And figure it out. But over the years, that has died off. The younger generation doesn't want to get into the blue collar skilled labor. So there's more folks retiring than there are coming into the business. So to keep those guys, we need to invest in those guys. We need to have training, and guys or gals. I'm using that very generally, but there needs to be training. They need to be invested in and shown that they're a part of the team. So to do that, how do we keep them? There's a lot of different business models out there on how to keep them. Our industry is heavily subcontractors, so it's difficult. My personal opinion on it is the retailers and contractors that are hiring in-house and investing in those folks, and they're covering their benefits and taking out their taxes and all those things. That's always been a problem in the industry. So the folks that are retaining the guys like that, they're investing, and then they're investing in training, and they're supporting them. It's difficult to find subcontractor who's, again, he's paid by the job, he's paying his own taxes, he's covering his own insurance. Those guys are less likely to invest in training because they're working every day to make ends meet. So, the in-house guys seem to be some of the ones that now you have the ability to get them to trainings, and you control their schedule a little more, so you can control how that happens. But again, that's a personal opinion. That's not necessarily a reflection of of anything else. But there are groups out there like CFI, Certified Flooring Installers. That's a great training. Again, but you don't see a lot of subcontractors going to those because they can't take a week off of installing to make that happen. So I feel that there's a lot of retailers out there. Your guys are subs. You trust them. They've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. So we just trust everything that they say. Maybe we're not checking to make sure, do they know what they're doing, right? And a wise man told me a long time ago, beware of a man with 10 years experience. He might only have 1 year experience 10 times. So unfortunately, we see it, right? We see it out there. We see the installations. We see the nightmare stories where, someone thought they were a flooring installer, and it turns out that they're not. And you have a guy that was landscaping all summer. He got the winter off because of weather. He installed a click floor at his mother-in-law's game room, and now he's a flooring guy. But there's been no formal training. He doesn't know how to do moisture testing. He doesn't know about the proper prep products and floor flatness and industry standards and tolerances. So, at that point, we need some training, right? We need to make sure that we're managing that.
Well, even if you have subcontractors, when I had several flooring stores, I had subs. I had some, and I had guys on the payroll. And I think what we forget is, even if you have a sub, you still have to be able to provide some kind of training. You can't just think that he knows or she knows everything, because things change all the time. So I think as a retailer, that one of the responsibilities you have, whether you like it or not, and I'm not sure they really do like it, is that you do have to provide training. And if you do, you got to pay them. I mean, I used to bring my guys in, and there at that time they were guys, and I would bring them in once every 2 months, and they would have a 3-hour class. I paid them for it because
Sure.
I had to be clear that they knew, right, what they needed to know. And I found that was one way to build some allegiance with them, because
Sure.
I was the only one that would bring them in and pay them, right?
Sure.
But, I mean, as a retailer, John, I mean, you have responsibilities, right, on that level?
Absolutely. And I've seen it. I've seen it in retail showrooms where we've done installation trainings where the subcontractors maybe don't want to be there, or maybe I get a little bit of the backlash personally, or one of my guys, because
Right.
the installers that are there say, well, I got to do this for free and I'm not getting paid. They want me to do this because it's free training. Well, their time's worth something. So I would agree with you. You need to do something for that to compensate. I think that shows that you're dedicated and invested in them, because they're your guys. They're coming there every day. If that's the team that you choose, then you want to invest in them. So I agree. Couldn't agree more with that.
Well, I mean, the other thing is you can't have them making mistakes. I mean, again, we think, and I'm not sure we really do think that they know everything, but I think sometimes as retailers, we're so overwhelmed with just the business in general that we have a subcontract and we say, oh, okay, he or she knows what they're doing. And I think that the business has changed. Let's talk about that for a minute. How the business has changed over the last 25 or 30 years.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would say that since I've come into the industry, so many things have changed. And so there's a lot of, we'll talk about the guys my age, right? They've been doing this for 30 years, and they just assume that, well, I've been doing this, everything's the same every day, because they're not going to trainings, right? So I've been blessed in my career. I've done a lot of different things. Being with Karndean for 10 years, I attend the Surfaces Convention. I attend a lot of trade shows and work with other vendors and suppliers of underlayments and adhesives. So we see all the new things moving and coming. But these guys that are out there grinding every day, trying to make ends meet, they're maybe not up on all those items. So if they're our crew, right? If we're the retailer and they're our crew, are we making sure that they know that? Are we making sure they know that adhesives have changed and patches have changed and moisture tolerances have changed? All those things have changed over the past 20, 30 years, even the past 5 or 10 years, right? With the influx of rigid core, all the instructions are changing. So are they reading those instructions? Are we making sure they know that this is different, that this product has a different lock mechanism, or this product has a little different requirement? We're expecting them to know it. They can't know it before the first time they've done it, right? You don't know until you know. And so if they've never worked with a specific product, it doesn't mean that they're an expert at every product on the shelf. Like you had said, there's a lot of different things out there. And so we need to make sure that they are aware of what they're taking out with them and making sure that they're prepared. If you send your kid to school without lunch, he's probably going to be hungry, right? So
yeah.
So if we send the installers to the job without the right prep materials or without the right transitions, right? That's another overlooked item, or without the right materials, then we can expect that they're not going to be able to do the right job.
The other thing you mentioned is you get to go to Surfaces, you get to go to the trade shows. And, I'm wondering, why not invest in one of your installers and bring them with you? I mean, a lot of businesses don't even bring any of their salespeople, but let's say you don't bring them. What about bringing back literature for them, right? Things that you know that they would want to know about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we can't assume because we know it or we saw it that they know it, right? They maybe not, might not be getting that. And there are subscriptions out there, right? There are things like a Pro Installer magazine, floor covering installer. You know, there are publications out there for installers to keep up on things, but do they even know they exist? Are they getting a subscription? Could we buy this? Could we order subscriptions to those things and hand
Very
them
good
out?
idea. Yeah, why aren't we doing that for them, right?
And some folks are. I'm sure there's some folks are. As an installer, I always pick those up at my supply house, right? At my distributor that sold me my sundry items and my underlayments and my staples and all those things. We would grab those. We would grab those magazines and we would read them. So, and read them cover to cover and read the articles and get the important articles out there. Make sure that everybody knows what's going on. You can never be too prepared.
That's right. You can't. And what was it that you said to me? There's never a dumb question either, right?
Absolutely. If you don't know the answer, ask it, right? That's how mistakes happen, right? And that happens a lot in installation trainings and groups. We're all sitting there and there's 5 people there that want to ask a question, but they're afraid that it's a dumb question and they don't want anyone to look at them funny when they ask it. I say ask it or whisper it. I'll ask it and pretend it was my question.
Or write a note. Send us a note and slip it under the table or something, right?
Absolutely.
Get it out. Again, if you just joined us, I have John Jarvis with me today. He is Technical Services Manager of Karndean Designflooring, and we do have his direct number there, which is 412-709-4662. And John does training and can do training in your store, or however you do that. I want to wrap it up, John, so let us know how you can do that part.
Sure. Typically, the easiest way to make that happen is to reach out to your sales rep. Talk to your local Karndean sales rep. Tell them you want to get some training, and then from there we can discuss what's going to fit the best. I know I talked about doing some showroom floors. If we need to do warehouse type training, where we don't want to replace any floors right now, we'll put down some underlayment. You know, we'll lay out some sheets of underlayment, spread some adhesive. We'll lay some floors, show them how to do some design work and things like that, as well as the basics with rigid core and things. We'll make sure we cover it all.
You know, if I was, you made me think of something. If I was in the retail business, I certainly would want to have you come out and teach my installers and my salespeople, because how you can do a fancy floor. You know, how do you do this? Because, you know, that's the part, right?
Sure. Again, yeah, and that's it. You know, I said it before, and I really like to speak it loud, is you have the skill set to do it. You have the guys with the talent to do it. You just got to get them in the right mindset, and you have to have your sales team confident to sell it, because you know your guys can do it. So it all goes hand in hand. Once their installers can do it, then it's very easy to sell, and it's easy to sell that upgrade. Look, you're going to sell a design floor versus a straight lay floor. Can you charge more for that? Absolutely. Do the installers make a little more money on that? Absolutely. It's a win-win. And do your customers talk about it? And word of mouth is going to spread. Every time someone sees that floor and asks them where they got it, they're going to come back to you. You're going to be the team that can do it, right? Because you've had the training and you can sell it. So,
John, thank you so much for today. We'll probably have to get you back again.
Absolutely.
And maybe answer some more questions. But thank you very much for being here today again. John Jarvis, Technical Services Manager at Karndean Designflooring. And we have been discussing installation. We have been discussing products and all the things that you need to know in the flooring business. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Liz.